Greetings, friends, and welcome to another episode of The Mistake Zone, your weekly dose of our lives and the mistakes within them. My name is Jaron Wade. Joining me, as always, one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Matt Alba. Hey, Matt.
Yo.
How are you doing?
You know, the fullness I was feeling from last episode is turning into sleepiness now.
Matt?
The itis.
That's going to be rough. But also joining us this week is another one of my best friends, Rakush. Hey, Rakush.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Future speak here. I'm in a different country right now, in a different time zone. So, yeah.
Thank you for joining us telepathically once again, Rakush.
No, you guys are more than welcome, you know. I'm probably somewhere that's like 20, 30 degrees warmer than it currently is in our good old country of Canada.
Yep.
That's
definitely looking forward to that. Yeah.
I thought it would be warmer than that there, but...
It's more than 30?
I thought the temperature in India would normally be around, like, I don't know, 25, 30. And I'm expecting us here to be, like, in the negative, like, negative 5, 10s.
Yeah. I mean, some parts of India do get a lot hotter, but where I'm at, it's going to be hopefully around 25, 30. Hopefully no more than that, but we shall see.
Mm-hmm.
And we shall see because... boys, we're continuing our celebration of 2025, and up to bat this week is our friend Rakush to kind of go through, I believe, 5 different lists. Correct, Rakush?
It's 3 different lists. I appreciate that you think I had 5 different lists, but no. Look, new year. Before we move into 2026, just want to talk about some of the things that were really cool from 2025. And I know in the last episode Matt did his top 25 of 25. I wouldn't say I have it broken out in that way. I kind of just have 3 main lists that are top 5s with some honorable mentions sprinkled in that bring us up to roughly 20 things for 2025.
Rakush,
what's up, Jaron?
You couldn't just come up with another 5?
No.
You couldn't find 5 more things that you loved this year, Rakush.
Here, you know what? I can do this. Let's see. Top 5 friends of the year. In no particular order. Saving that one as well. You guys. So that's 2 of you. Julian, that's 3. Friend of the show, Freddie Gallus. And listener of the show, Saucy. There you go.
Damn, rest in peace, Mark.
Hate to see it. Hate to see it.
Ooh, Mark,
he's an honorable mention.
Mark taking hits these past 2 episodes.
Matt, first again behind the curtain. Don't think that's going to stop next episode.
First you guys talk shit about Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, man.
Oh, gosh.
Aw, okay. So Rakush, with your first list out of the way, please.
Sure.
Continue.
Yeah, guys, I got 3 other lists to go through. I think I'm going to start with something we don't really talk about a lot on the Mistake Zone, and that's Wrasslin. Big Wrestling fan. It has come up every now and then when there's a live show in town and stuff, but for those who know me in real life, they know that a big part of my routine every week is watching Dynamite, AEW Dynamite on Wednesdays between 8 and 10. It's been that since the pandemic. It's always been a good sort of midweek cut off, almost like, you know, halfway through the week. After that, you're just wrapping up the last 2 days, and it's been serving me really well so far. Also a great reason for me to stay in touch with some really good friends. And I think it was a pretty strong year this year. It's not, so my top 5 list isn't just AEW stuff, but it was a pretty good year for AEW. If there is one thing maybe I wish there was a little bit more of, it would be your on-TV matches versus pay-per-view matches. But let's put a pin in that one, because I want to start off with my one honorable mention for my top 5 wrestling matches of the year. So before we get into the 5, wanted to give an honorable mention to the Mark Briscoe versus MJF match at All Out, which was a thumbtacks match. And I think the reason I kind of wanted to give that one a shout out, beyond just the fact that we watched it live, is AEW has done a lot of deathmatch, like hardcore matches this year. to the point where like you're seeing maybe one, maybe two a month. So it's a pretty frequent occurrence at this point on that show. And in order for those kind of matches to stand out when it's so saturated, you have to do something that is a little bit different or a little bit more distilled down to the purest form of like violence, as heavy metal as that sounds, right? But like you simplify it down to like one weapon, maybe two weapons, and that's what this match was. And I know like Jaren, like when you were asking about being there live to watch this show a few months back when we were recording an episode, this was definitely one of the standout matches for me there as well. And there was also a triple threat match during that show too, which was Okada, Takeshita, and Mascara Dorada. Again, put a pin in that one as well. But it was a phenomenal show, and I did kind of just want to give a shout out to this match, as like it's very rare that like these hardcore matches really stand out to me as good storytelling more than just like, hey, this is a really good spot fest. This one was both of them, and I think it's a testament to both the characters and sort of like the blood feud that they were going for with this match as well. MJF was actually off TV for the most part since that, only came back like as of this recording a couple of weeks back. May or may not be the champion. Apparently I'm not a good enough psychic here to be able to guess if he's going to be champion or not, but we shall see at AEW's World's End.
So no gambling for you, Rakush. Is what
No
you're saying.
gambling for me. No.
Okay.
Definitely don't, especially not on wrestling. A predetermined thing.
I mean, if you determine Rakush, yeah, that just sounds like easy money to me. Think about all the tickets you could buy to go to wrestling matches.
Once again, 1-800-GAMBLER.
Is that a real phone number before we really start fucking somebody up?
I'm pretty sure it's in like an American number. It's just the one I always hear whenever I see like DraftKings commercials and stuff, or I might be getting the brand wrong. But 1-800-GAMBLER used to be a thing for sure. Please don't actually call that number.
I googled the phone number, and the first result is Canada.ca saying get help with substance abuse.
There you go.
So maybe.
So Matt, get help with substance abuse. Moving on to number 5. I'm going to be going in reverse order, of course. This was actually a recent match, and I was kind of debating if I wanted to put something as recent as December 10th onto this list, but as I mentioned, one of the things about AEW this year that I really wish I'd seen a little bit more was TV matches that mattered. And currently they're actually going through the Continental Classic, aka C2, which is like a round robin tournament of theirs. And there was a match on December 10th edition of Dynamite, Mike Bailey versus Kyle Fletcher. And honestly, I think this one absolutely tore the house down. Might end up being the best match of the tournament, but these two guys don't really interact with each other, and the only reason that they're interacting with each other is kind of because of this round robin tournament. So it's putting them in this place where you don't actually have to do a crazy amount of story building. It's not something that requires a payoff on one of the pay-per-views that they do every year. And honestly, the stakes were high enough. It's just, we both need to win. We both need the points. And both of them absolutely went bonkers. The crowd was phenomenal as well. I think it was just sort of like a perfect accumulation of everything that, to me, makes the weekly product as strong as it is. And it's probably the most random match to be on this list, but I would say just the second half is like one of the best bits of wrestling that I've actually seen on Dynamite, like the TV show itself, in 2-3 years maybe. So absolutely wanted to give it its flowers, because yeah, that was some really fun, really good shit. I love the C2, love the concept of it. It's the third year that they're running it now, and yeah, talking about, you know, just kind of distilling sometimes things to its purest form. That's what the C2 is doing with just like the actual wrestling part of Wrasslin, which is just distilled down to extremely athletic dudes, extremely like intelligent, skillful, unique guys that are just pulling out some stuff that you've never seen before in a way that just makes you go, holy shit. So phenomenal match. That's my fifth favorite match of the year. Moving on to number 4, guys. I'm going to go with Mercedes Mone versus Toni Storm from All In. Now, Jaren, I don't know if you and I talked about this match at all earlier this year.
I think we did just a tad.
Okay. It's not the strongest match. If you ask me, like, as far as, like, what is the selling point of this match, it's not the same stuff that sold me on Kyle Fletcher versus Mike Bailey, right? Because as far as, like, the spots are concerned, they're a little bit more methodical. There's a lot of countering. There were some really cool spots, but not to the point where it's like, oh, wow, like, these are high flyers or anything like that. I think what really sold me on this match, and the reason it's remained as memorable for me, is it is a culmination of what feels like 2 years worth of character building, and with two wrestlers who had different arcs that just kind of converged at what is AEW's biggest stage, which is All In. And it was a title versus, or not a title versus title match, sorry. It was a champion versus champion match. Mercedes Mone had won the Owen Hart Foundation tournament, gotten the right to challenge Toni Storm for the title. And I think just overall, it was kind of the two biggest female stars in AEW, but I would even argue two of their five biggest stars, period, in AEW, basically facing off against each other in a one-on-one matchup. And I just really felt like it was some excellent storytelling. The women from AEW constantly do phenomenal storytelling as well. They've also, pretty much outside of Mercedes Moné, kind of had a very homegrown vibe to the entire division over the last few years. Toni Storm, of course, was part of the indies in WWE as well, but the character that she's playing, Timeless Toni Storm, it's an original creation. It's very much like her in AEW is a very original character, so that was phenomenal as well. And like, I just wanted to give it its flowers. But Jaren, what were your thoughts on that match?
I think it's what you said, where when we think about both these women and just the generational runs they're both on right now, Toni's work as the timeless character on AEW has been nothing short of incredible, and just Mercedes, given everything she's done this year, through all the different promotions, through all the different titles she's held or is currently holding, they're just putting on the best work of their careers. And for this match in particular, it was, I think for me personally, as you said, just how much of the context surrounding it, just how much of the build up, the story goes into it, where definitely, if I think about both of them as athletes this year, I'm going to say this match in particular isn't my favorite Mercedes match, nor my favorite Toni match this year for both of them. But at the same time, I can still acknowledge that just everything that went into it, what it meant, even that promo that they cut when they first faced off against one another. I believe it was like 6 weeks, 2 months or something, like a long time until they would actually step into a ring together. And even though they were already building it so far out, you could just feel that this would accumulate into something really great between the two, where, again, I might have more favorite Mercedes matches and Toni matches this year, but when a wrestling match is able to bring everything together, I think that's the special cherry on top. And
yeah,
I believe they were able to do that with their All-In match.
I think I fully agree with you that this isn't necessarily the best quality of match either, right? Like, if I'm looking at, because I basically had like a list going for the entire year of all my favorite matches. Arguably, I would say Jamie Hayter versus Mercedes Moné, probably a better match. If you ask me about Toni versus Mariah May from Revolution, probably a better match. Wrestledream also had a match with Jamie Hayter and Tekla that I think is a very underappreciated women's match this year as well. But as far as, just like the culmination of everything, like the stakes of everything, the storytelling and the stature of the women, like I do think this is why I kind of have this match on the list over those three. But yeah, I mean, just flowers to both of them, right? Like, Moné's been doing some really cool stuff. I know the general public is kind of getting tired of this whole Ultimate Moné thing, but I've personally felt like the pins that she's also taking honestly have a lot more impact now, right? With like her losing, it actually kind of means something. And I think like that's the most important part of what's happened over the last few years, and the payoff is currently happening. So yeah, props to both of them. Phenomenal match, storytelling wise. So that's my number 4. Let's move on. Number 3 is a tag match, and I know I'd said put a pin in the triple threat match from All Out, which was Okada, Takeshita, and Mascara Dorada. And I was debating which one of these 2 matches to put on this list, and I think ultimately I went with the follow-up match, which was Okada and Takeshita teaming up for a tag title match against Brodido at Wrestledream. Now, there's a part of me explaining these things, by the way, where I've tried to keep Matt involved in these things. So, I mean, it's a fruitless endeavor. I understand that. That's
good. That's good.
Matt, basically for your reference, after the triple threat match, Okada and Takeshita are part of the same group, basically. And so the guy that manages the group is trying to get them on the same page, but these two just have a lot of tension with each other. They're both basically like top Japanese stars that are kind of like, one of their nicknames is the Alpha, basically. So like, and the other guy used to be basically like the face of New Japan Pro Wrestling, which is the biggest Japanese wrestling company. So like they're butting heads a lot. And so this tag match happens, and they're like, these guys are, it's a very can they coexist cliche, which is very prevalent in wrestling. But it's happening.
Yeah, Rakush, I've watched X-Men Days of Future Past. I know what you're talking about.
Basically, yeah, there you go. Now, the fun part of that, though, is can they coexist typically happens with who are called babyfaces, or the good guys. This time around, it's happening with a heel, the bad guy, and Takeshita, who's very much a tweener wrestler. Like, he's good or bad depending on the crowd. And it's very rare to get that can they coexist story happening with 2 basically assholes at the same time. On the other side of it is a tag team, Brody King and Bandito, that honestly were kind of thrown together, I would say, in June, July of this year, and they somehow won the titles. And honestly, I was very surprised by that result, but they kind of took it and ran with it. They ran with the opportunity, and they had some phenomenal matches over that entire run. And I really do feel like this match was kind of like the culmination of that. The FTR match at Full Gear a month after was also phenomenal, but if we're just talking about a match consisting of some of the best wrestlers of the year, I would say 3 of the 4 all exist in this one match: Okada, Takeshita, and Bandito. And Jaren, I don't know if you've stayed in touch with or kept up with the Ring of Honor stuff from this year. Bandito has put on some insane matches, including a one-on-one match against Takeshita from the day before All In as well. So there is a little bit of like a long-term story happening with this one too. But outside of the story, like, this match was just full of moments where you were just like, oh, it's going to blow up. It's going to explode. It's going to explode. And then like one team just going full on like, power of friendship. And like, going with all the cliches, powering up the team, tag team partners, and then getting the win, and then just sort of like continuing to build on the tension between Okada and Takeshita. And it's one of those tag matches where neither tag team is like what you'd consider a traditional tag team, but they really did a lot of stuff together that was absolutely phenomenal. And it was also the first match that Okada took a pin in since last year's Continental Classic as well. So like we're talking 9 months basically. So it was a pretty monumental win as well. To me, it solidified Brodido as a tag team in a way that I don't think any other result necessarily could have solidified them as. So I just, like, full props to this one. I think it's absolutely one of my favorite matches of the year. And I think I'm actually going to go try and rewatch this one of these days because I thankfully have access to it. So, yeah. I'm going to move on to my second favorite match of the year. And it actually happened on January 5th. So pretty early in the year. And it's Kenny Omega versus Gabe Kidd from New Japan's Wrestle Dynasty. And Jared, I just heard that sound, so let's hear it.
Did you cry during this match?
Man, okay. Literally the first note that I've written down here is to describe it as the match that made Tanahashi cry. For those who don't know, Hiroshi Tanahashi is his nickname is the Ace of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he's actually retiring on Jan 4, 2026. He had already announced his retirement, I believe, by the time this match happened, Kenny Omega versus Gabe Kidd. And so a lot of conversations were happening around just sort of like who is his final opponent going to be and things like that as well. But in that process, a lot of the eyes were on the younger wrestlers from New Japan, including Gabriel Kidd. He's a British-born wrestler, but he went through the New Japan dojo, and he's very much a homegrown talent for those guys. And Gabe Kidd has been very vocal about sort of how much Tanahashi supported him during the pandemic when he was going through mental health issues and darker thoughts and things like that. And it's a very relatable thing, of course, but he was also a very emotional sort of like, he was feeling emotional about these things too. And so I think as that match was happening with Kenny Omega, that's one element of it. But then there's the other element of it, which is this is actually Kenny's return match from also having a serious injury as well. And there were like Kenny had not wrestled for I think like 13, 14 months before that. And so there was also a lot of talk Kenny might not wrestle again. And so a lot of questions were kind of hovering around sort of what is this match going to be like? Is Kenny going to be in top form? How long is this match going to go? Things like that. And all of this tension kind of building up, and the match starts, and both these guys absolutely are going at it with each other. They're not holding anything back. And I think a big part of the all with this match was that like Kenny Omega, who is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, comes back after 14 months, doesn't look like he's missed a step, except for storytelling purposes. He does kind of do that sometimes. But as far as like actually just the match itself is concerned, it was phenomenal. It wouldn't necessarily be one of the best matches he's ever had, but it was really good, all things considered. And Gabe Kidd had never had such a high-profile match before either, and so like he had a lot to prove as well. He's wrestling one of the as Kenny Omega is kind of considered one of the best foreign talents who has ever wrestled in Japan. Matt, you might find this tidbit very interesting. Kenny Omega speaks perfectly fluent Japanese. So one of the ways, like many, many years ago, he actually got the crowd behind him was when he turned babyface, basically, after winning a big tournament, he just started cutting a promo in Japanese, and the crowd was eating it up, like absolutely eating that shit up. So he has a very special place in that country as a wrestler. And so, like, there's a lot of things at play here as far as just sort of like, it's not necessarily storytelling, but it's just contextual building of that story itself. And they just delivered, man. Like, it was phenomenal. I think this is the kind of match that Kenny has had with a lot of younger stars in his entire career, where you can look at even Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega, the two times they've wrestled each other, as Kenny absolutely putting this guy over in a way that has solidified Ospreay as like one of the best ever. Gabe Kidd's not quite there, but he's very much now considered like a staple of New Japan. He's considered like one of the best up and coming talents. He's phenomenal. And so the match ends, and they cut to Tanahashi, who's on Japanese commentary at that point, and he's just crying. And he's not wrestling crying, right, Jared? Like maybe I'm rosying up the visual a little bit too much, but it felt like he was legitimately crying.
Yeah, I think at least, I mean, just given everything, especially with him already staring down his career, like the barrel of his career at that point, just to kind of see potentially the next generation of New Japan, considering all the discourse about, where is this company going the moment he retires. And then again, that's just me and my read. He could just be crying because he loves professional wrestling, and that was some great professional wrestling.
And that's a beauty of it too, right? Is like that match, the way it was done was that your interpretation of why Tanahashi was crying, it's not some Shakespearean interpretation or anything like that. It's not like it's got 10 different meanings. I understand that part. But it is whatever context we have from our experiences watching wrestling, or wrestling, sorry. that builds however you react to watching Tanahashi cry. And I think that was very beautiful. And honestly, like, it's one of the cooler moments in New Japan's history, definitely in this year as well. And that match was extremely memorable. I think, like, the fact that as I was writing this list, this and the top match of the year were like the two solidified matches. I'm like, I'm going to talk about these two, and 3 to 5 plus honorable mentions. I had to go through the list a little bit. But the fact that like this match is from literally a year ago, and I remember so many details about it so vividly, like, absolutely phenomenal match. Really glad to see Kenny Omega back in the ring at that point as well. And as someone that has basically been watching Kenny from sort of like the start of his peak to this point, I'm very grateful that I've gotten to experience all of that. And at this point, I do also understand that any other matches of his that exceed sort of like the standards that he set for himself are going to be very far and few between. So, like, he had his match against Okada at All In this year. I wouldn't call that a great match. I had some issues with it, but I also understand that the guy probably couldn't go longer than that. And they also probably couldn't like stop the feud entirely right there. Like, I don't think they could do any of that stuff, but I don't think we're going to be seeing Kenny Omega go 30 plus minutes anymore. And the fact that this one still kind of got there and he was able to put on the match that he was able to put on, phenomenal. And yeah, if that's the last big Kenny Omega match that meets expectations, then so be it. It was a great match. That's my second favorite match of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But the one I would probably say I was the most poetic about out of all of these matches. I'm going to move on to the top, for me, my favorite wrestling match of the year. And I think, to be honest, I was struggling between this and Kenny, like which one's one, which one's two. I would just kind of say like both of these are top, but Hangman Adam Page versus Will Ospreay from Double or Nothing, I think, is probably my favorite match of the year, as I currently think about it. And I think the reason for that is I've talked a lot about sort of like the accumulation of things, right? Like we mentioned that with Mone versus Toni Storm. Hangman's story is also something that's been going for like a year and a half, 2 years. Ospreay has kind of like his own story happening as well. And there was sort of like a convergence of these two paths at Double or Nothing for the Owen Hart tournament final, where the winner gets a title shot at All In. Now, I will admit the first half of this year was very much clouded by the Death Riders holding the title, and it wasn't fun. Like, honestly, like, I was kind of getting tired of it. I think the one where it really rubbed me the wrong way is Swerve losing it. And then when Swerve lost the main event match at Dynasty, which was in April, not to be confused with Wrestle Dynasty, I was kind of a little bit like assured, or like in my mind, I was like, okay, it's Ospreay versus Moxley. Like, that's the match they're going for sure. And then this match happens, and they're like building up to it with the promos and everything as well. And these guys have phenomenal matches throughout the tournament too. Hangman faced, I believe, Kyle Fletcher during the tournament as well. That was a really fun match. And then we get to the main event and of Double or Nothing, which is this match. And all of a sudden, like, the lighting changes and the camera work changes. And the camera work goes from what is a very North American style, which is cut during an action to make it look more believable, like they do with action movies. No, they actually went the New Japan style, which is hold on to camera shots. Like, keep on the shot, trust the wrestlers to sell the moves, and like show the flow of everything. And I don't think you can do that with all the wrestlers that are currently active. I think Ospreay and Hangman might be like 2 out of maybe 4 or 5 that can pull this off. I don't even think you can do this with Kenny Omega anymore, to be honest. But the fact that they had these two guys in the ring at the same time and were able to kind of like elevate a lot of their presentation value because of it, I think really sort of like in the moment I was watching it, I'm like, okay, this feels special. This feels like a prize fight. This feels like something they're absolutely making a big deal. And I absolutely love that. And that's not even to talk about the quality of the match itself. Like, we're not just talking about this being cinematic in a way that like, oh, it's shot like WWE. It's a little bit of that, but also you have two of the best wrestlers in the ring at the same time as well. And like the things they were doing were phenomenal, and the story that they were telling, and Hangman's redemption arc and everything, through all of like the doubts about who might end up winning. Like I was very certain Ospreay was winning this, and then Hangman ends up winning the match, and it's like, well, oh wow, okay, like I didn't expect that to happen in that moment, because I was so certain that the story they were going to tell it all in was Hangman and Swerve versus the Young Bucks, instead of Hangman versus Moxley and then Ospreay and Swerve versus the Young Bucks. Now, Ospreay's been shelved since August for back surgery that he's gotten. He's likely not going to be wrestling for another 4 or 5 months. This was his last big singles match, I would say. And it did not disappoint. Similar to Kenny, like these guys put their bodies on the line so much that like when they go through these major surgeries, I never take it for granted that like they might come back very different. And that might happen with Ospreay as well, right? So if, again, this is kind of like the last high-quality, aerial, high-flying big match that he has, so be it. But it was a phenomenal match. I think he had one with Swerve shortly after as well, but that was like a TV match. That was like 20, 30-minute time limit draw. It was a fun one too, but yeah. That's my match of the year, Hangman versus Ospreay from Double or Nothing. Jaron, what do you think about the list, about these matches, everything?
Nope. Solid list, Rakush, and really thoughtful. Was kind of expecting more Takeshita, but maybe that's just me. Play.
You're not
living
wrong.
Vicariously through
You're not wrong.
Whatever,
You're not wrong.
but
Let me tell you all the Takeshita
Rakush.
matches I have on the list, by the way, just so you understand how much this guy was represented here. Takeshita versus Ishii from Wrestle Dynasty. Shibata versus Takeshita from Collision Jan 25th. Fletcher and Takeshita versus Hounds of Hell. Fletcher and Takeshita versus Kenny and Ospreay. Takeshita versus Orange Cassidy from Dynamite. Takeshita versus Bandito, like I mentioned earlier, from Supercard of Honor. Takeshita versus Finley from the G1 semifinals. The triple threat match, the tag match, even Takeshita versus Cesaro from Collision on December 13th, which went to a time limit draw. You're not far off, Jared. There's a lot of Takeshita on the list, but if I was trying to diversify the list a little bit, I think this is where I ended up with that tag match.
Fair. And I meant to say projecting, not living vicariously. But I asked you last year, Rakush, and I believe you said Ospreay, but have to ask you again for 2025. Who is your wrestler of the year?
I think it's Takeshita, but I gotta be honest with you, man. Bandito is absolutely up there for that list as well. I think Kyle Fletcher might be top 3. I think those 3 rounded out for me. But yeah.
Okay.
Takeshita, I think.
Good list.
Yeah.
All right. And Rakush, now that you've grappled with your favorite wrestling matches of the year, what's the next list that you want to celebrate?
Jaron, Matt and I do basically what is now a quarterly special episode, which is our animes of the season. One of my lists wouldn't be complete if I didn't talk about anime, of course. And so I'm going to do my top 5 animes of the year. I will say probably the toughest list to dwindle it down to, but I think I've managed it. But first, I do want to give an honorable mention for this one as well, and that is to an ongoing series, Tojima Wants to Be a Kamen Rider. Matt, I've mentioned this show on multiple episodes at this point as well. You really need to catch up to this one. Confirmed to be a 24-episode series, or at least 2 cores, by the way. Yeah. So
wait, 2 cores are back to back?
Yeah, it sounds like it's just going to continue. So episode 12 just came out this week, and if I understand correctly from what I read, it's just going to be ongoing until basically the end of March.
Rakush,
what's up?
I just want to say, I don't know if like you get what I mean when I say that is very surprising to me. That one, it's 2 cores, and that it is 2 cores long, and that is a 24.
I think the first part, the fact that it's back to back, is a little bit surprising. I'm not surprised that it's 24 episodes long, if that makes sense.
Okay. Maybe there's a difference from someone who hasn't watched past like episode 5.
You really should watch it. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining again what makes this show great or not. I would highly encourage folks to just go listen to our recap episodes. But I don't have this on the list because the show is at this point going to end in March of 2026. And so it seems roughly March of 2026. So it didn't feel right putting a half-complete show on the top 5 list of the year for me. But it is phenomenal. It's done everything right so far. I think it's captured the emotion that it wants to capture very well. And I think the experience week in, week out has been great as well. So that's Tojima Wants to Be a Common Writer. Highly recommend checking that out. I think we can hop right into the top 5 anime this year, guys. A lot of these we've already talked about quite a bit, but I think this one was a little bit of a surprise if I'm looking back at the entire list, and it's See You Again at the Ballpark.
Okay.
So, for obvious reasons, it's here. Big sucker for baseball and stuff like that. But, Jaren, I know you mentioned this show a little bit as well. Did you end up finishing the entire series?
You know what, Rakush, to kind of maybe give a little preview of what I was going to talk about next week. This is definitely one of the more comfy animes that I really appreciated from this year. Really kind of surprised that I just had not really that surprised, but it was definitely an anime that I got really into. One of those comfort animes that I watched in a hotel in Korea when I was just trying to fall asleep. Just really likable characters, really fun scenarios, just everything I like to see out of a slice of life anime overall.
I agree with all of that, and it is like all of those things add up with a few other things to make it one of my favorites of the year. I think the personal elements of it that I also loved were like it felt so much like a different view of how fans are in a ballpark versus how North American fans are. Now, I'll give you an example of why this really speaks to me a little bit. As of this recording, there was a football game happening today, and a player basically went and punched/shoved a fan in the face because the fan was talking big shit about the player. There's not a lot of that from what I've seen, like Japanese baseball at least. And I'm not gonna like sit here and virtue signal or any like term that you want to use, like, oh my god, Japanese fans are better or anything like that. But it does change your experience at the ballpark. And when I went in 2024 to the Hokkaido, the Nippon Ham Fighters ballpark, Escon Field, it was really fun. I wasn't really like interacting with a lot of folks, but like I was sitting near the cheering section. I was sitting near an older lady who had like these 2 giant tote bags, basically of like, those like, what do you call them? The scarves, like the banners with like player names and stuff like that. Everybody was chanting along. It was real fun. There was like 3 basically like, Osans like sitting next to in the same row as us. They were just like basically friends with each other there, enjoying themselves, watching it. And then I started watching this anime this year. And I was just thinking so much about that stuff as well, right? And like just this like whole thing of like people go there on a regular basis and just chill out there. And I wouldn't say the tickets are super affordable, but it's a little bit more affordable from what I saw. And so, like, you're able to do this on a regular basis. You're able to go there on a regular basis and have fun and, like, meet people that you see in the same rows, in the same seats, like the same, like, vendors and stuff like that. And it was really fun like that. So watching this, like, that also kind of added to, like, the comfiness for me and, like, that big smile that I had just kind of, like, watching this series as well. So yeah, I think like I definitely wanted to put this on the list for just like that reason. It was just phenomenal and very charming, and I hope there's more of it. I don't know if there will be. Actually, no, I'm pretty sure like they said there might be a second episode or a second season for it, but maybe I'm misremembering, or to steal a word that Jaren just used, maybe I'm just projecting my desires onto other people. But yeah, See You at the Ballpark, number 5 on that list. Going from that kind of comfy to a more sinister kind of comfy on number 4 is Kowloon Generic Romance. And I think, like, as the series was going on, and when we had done, like, sort of, like, the episode previews and stuff, I talked a lot about just conceptually this being a very promising series. And I do think as ultimately, like, it faltered a little bit at the end with just the actual visual quality of the series. Like, it clearly did not seem like the studio had a lot of budget to finish up, like, the things that they wanted to do with it. There were just a few rough spots throughout the season as well. But the story was very strong. And it was a very thought-provoking series. Like, it was like something that forced me to be a little bit introspective around how I tackle, like, you know, certain conversations around, like, nostalgia, and how do I react to nostalgia, and what are the core emotions associated with nostalgia as well. And all the while, it's told with, again, some very endearing characters. It handles certain subject matter very tactfully as well, I found, and with a lot of care. And yeah, overall, just, I would say from this list, probably my favorite story of the year. Ultimately, not everything came together as well, but I do think the story is very memorable and something that carried it a long way for me. Despite the quality issues, I highly recommend people give Kowloon Generic Romance a watch. Well, it's only like 12 episodes, so it's pretty low commitment there as well. Did either of you end up watching this series?
I did not.
Unfortunately, I have not. But if you're speaking so highly, Rakush, might have to add it to the list.
I ended up watching a lot of YouTube things about the city, though.
Yeah. Also, like, for a long time, this series ended up being called Gooner Bait on, like, TikTok and stuff. I don't think it is. Let's just leave it at that.
Look, me and Jen play ZZZ, so, like, we can't talk shit about it.
No, I just want you guys to have honest expectations out of it as well, right? Like, if you're going in thinking this is Gooner Bait, like, there's a little bit of that, but I think a lot of it more so has to do with the romance part of the series. Like, there is a genuine sort of, like, even something as, like, you know, detailed as, like, the earrings a person wears, the glasses a person wears, the lipstick a person puts on. Like, it goes to, like, that level of memory and stuff. That's fascinating. I won't say more because it's all tied to the plot, but yeah. Again, not the perfect series. I think quality-wise, like, it's very notable in the end that, like, oh, this is a little bit rough. But story-wise, I really would encourage you, Jaren especially, I would encourage you to give this a watch.
Might have to now, Rakush. Might have to.
And Matt, yeah, definitely you read up more on Kowloon Walled City because, ooh, man, that history is phenomenal as well. Moving on to number 3, and to be honest with you, I thought this might end up being my favorite of the year, but just as I was building this list out, I think 3 is a good spot for it, and that's City the Animation. Matt, did you end up finishing this one?
No, I kind of petered out, like, part of the way through, and then I did the kind of thing that I did with what's the other one?
Nichijou?
Yeah, Nichijou, where I essentially watched it through YouTube clips, probably all out of order too.
And I actually remember us having that convo as well around, like, trying to watch it, and I do feel like, unlike Nichijou, City is so much more interconnected. Like, all the stories to me feel like they're a lot more tied together. And I think that's one of its charms, and the creators in the studio knew that as well, especially with, like, some of the best, like, to me, some of the best single episodes of the year all are from City the Animation, and one from my number 2 of the year. But, like, there's one, for example, where they just have, like, this picture-in-picture thing happening where they have, like, 6 or 7 different screens at once, and, like, you basically need to rewatch that episode like 6 or 7 times if you're trying to catch details in every single one of those. And it is mind-blowing how well executed that stuff is and how in sync everything is. And there's so many of those moments throughout this series as well. It is a pure gag series, to be honest, like a comedy series. There's not really anything deep with the plot. It's, like, again, just a very wholesome, very endearing series, similar to See You Again at the Ballpark, emotionally at least. But as far as like the animation is concerned, it is one of the best that I've seen, not just this year, but like ever. And that's saying a lot. So that's why like City the Animation is on the list. That's also available on Prime Video if anybody wants to go check it out quickly, but phenomenal show. And that's number 3 on the list. Number 2 was another surprise one for me this year, and that's Apocalypse Hotel. Hotel Gengaro, I think, was the Japanese name for it. Might have butchered that. I think a lot like Kowloon Generic Romance, Apocalypse Hotel was one that kind of made me think a lot about just the concepts that it was dealing with. So the entire concept is there's a group of robots, including one that's more of a humanoid robot, that are keeping a hotel running well past humanity's apocalypse has happened. And a big part of just sort of like the first episode, and the first episode was one which was like super profound, is like this idea that the robots have this mission programmed into them of keep the hotel running and functional and open for when the humans come back. And we're talking now like hundreds of years into the future since the apocalypse has happened. It's very obvious through the background and everything that humanity's kind of dead. And like, it does not stop these androids, these robots, from basically like keeping the hotel functioning and running and everything as well. And as the series progresses, they meet like aliens, they meet other life forms, they figure out like, you know, what is the purpose with this hotel, and it all like, I think it's really well handled. But there was, I believe, episode 9 or 10 of the 12 episode series where it was in essence a silent episode. And a lot of it was just like whatever emotions needed to be conveyed were conveyed through simply just how things were animated or the pacing or the music and stuff. And I felt like that was a really beautiful episode. Probably one of the most beautiful episodes, single episodes that I've seen all year as well. But I also think like coming out of the pandemic, and like I know we've talked about how like I don't necessarily love going back and watching stuff from the pandemic or listening to things from the pandemic because, or like, you know, I believe we were talking about Animal Crossing, so like playing things from during the pandemic because of just sort of like the things that it's connected to. And one of the emotions from the pandemic that I'll never forget personally is this idea that like you're experiencing something that you've only heard about in sci-fi movies, and in sci-fi movies the world shuts down, but in reality the world never shut down. The world just kind of continued running. And at that point in my job as well, like it was very much sort of like, you know, this like existential crisis of like, hey, I'm making commercials while like people's pay is getting cut by 30% to like, you know, make up for lost revenue or whatever. And like I didn't feel great about a lot of that stuff like, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, right? But we had to keep working to survive. And like watching this first episode with like these robots being fully programmed to just do that really just kind of like took me back to like that unpleasant time. But then after that, it was all very, I would say, very earnest and very beautifully done. And I don't think anything was handled too lightheartedly, but also not too seriously in a way where like it became overly melodramatic or anything like that. So yeah, Apocalypse Hotel, second favorite show of the year. Highly recommend this one too. If you guys haven't given it a shot, I highly recommend it. Again, only 12 episodes. And yeah, top anime of the year, not a surprise to anybody. It's Dandadan. I think.
Oh yeah.
Did you forget about this one?
I forgot Dandadan was this year.
I did not. No, Dandadan is absolutely for me like anime highlight of the year. Really well done. I think for more reasons than just the anime itself was high quality. I think I also just kind of felt very sort of like rewarded for having read the manga and then seeing the success and everything. You know, it's a little bit like vindicating to see that happen at any point in time. So yeah, not much else to say about Dandadan. We did like weekly recaps of it at this point, so like it feels weird, like, you know, having to like go in depth with that one and it being my favorite of the year. But the fact that we did weekly recap should tell you how much we love this one. Jaren, I won't ask you about this one because I'm doing the psychic thing that you said I'm doing with this episode, guessing it's going to be in the future episode. So we'll leave that one.
It isn't, to be honest.
Really? Oh my. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about it?
I have
right
to
now?
ask. Dandadan, I think the one thing I did want to kind of ask, well, it's a bit weird because I know you didn't watch the Dandadan essentially the preview movie in theaters, right, Rakush?
No, it was just the first 4 or 5 episodes, right?
Yeah. Where I feel like watching that in advance actually, I don't know, it made how I guess or consume the rest of the season kind of weirdly, where I think this year, friends, I think I'm gonna, or at least in 2026, maybe shy away from that, like the preview movie essentially, just because I feel like after watching it, I was so excited for this new season of Dandadan. But then it's that realization of, oh, the next 4 weeks are essentially a wash, just because as much as I want to, see what happens next, these are just 4 episodes I've already seen where, me, friends, if I'm not actively following something, it's harder to go back from it, where I know we did discuss it week to week, but I only recently just finished the season. And as much as I do love the characters, animation held up, that's something that, I'm always wary about is, will there be an animation drop or even just a production drop overall from one season to the next? But needless to say, this was strong throughout. I don't know. I just thought that maybe it's because I wasn't following right when the anime released right away, and I had that weird 4-minute or 4-week break essentially, and I don't know, I just didn't watch it week to week that I thought I would. But at the same time, likable characters, and did pick up, I think, a few Japanese manga of some of the particular episodes, or at least the manga that corresponded to some of these episodes, just because I love the art so much. But yeah, have to ask you, Rakush, since you just celebrated your favorite anime of the year, who's the Rakush best boy and best girl of 2025?
Kenta from Dandadan, and best girl is the girl from Kowloon Generic Romance. Amazing.
And now that we're on the topic, Rakush, got to get all the anime awards out of the way. What was your OP and ED of the year?
Ooh, to be honest with you, nothing really stood out for me this year, except for sort of like Dandadan stuff. The Creepy Nuts ones were good. I don't know about endings. I think, you know what, Witch Watch was one that had some surprisingly good ones this year.
Okay.
I didn't really add that to honorable mention, but I would actually recommend that series as well. It's from the same author as Sket Dance, which, if you talk to a friend of the show, Julian, like, he'll actually also tell you that show is one of, I don't know if it's one of his favorites, but he did enjoy that series. And I also really enjoyed that series. The humor is very slapstickish. Nothing is taken too seriously. And the music, I think, was really cool for Witch Watch. So I think those would be my picks.
Okay. Sounds like a good year of anime, Rakush.
Honestly, I think it was a pretty fun year. I think there was a good mix of like your big sort of like big releases, your big hits, and I think there was also a good mix of some original stories as well. Yeah, I think like I think if you are, I think this is one of those years where you could find whatever genre style of like series that you want and be pretty happy with at least one series.
Okay.
So guys, that's anime for 2025.
That is anime indeed. But Rakush, the celebrations don't stop. I believe, if my math is correct, you have one more list.
I have one more list.
Rakush, Are you going to be dramatic with us for this last segment?
Ooh, yes. Yes, I am going to be dramatic. Guys, I'm actually going to be dramatic 2 times with this list this year. Look, it's a top 5 list, so I'm not actually going to ask you guys to pick a number between, currently it's 1 and 28, because I already know which of the 2 are going to be on my favorite list of 2025 as well. But before we get to the be dramatic part of this segment, the last list is actually my top 5 movies and TV shows of the year. And I've combined them together a little bit because I think as far as like movie watching this year was concerned, and Jaren, I would say you are the bigger movie buff out of all of us. There were some really strong things this year, but I think overall there weren't a lot of things that just got me to the theater in the first place that weren't just re-releases or anything like that. And maybe you will be talking about this in the next episode, but I just didn't feel like I had a list of, say, like 5 movies that I felt strongly enough about. So I've just kind of combined the lists together. But can't do the list without mentioning some honorable mentions. And I got 3 for this one, actually. So I think I do have to give a shout out to K-pop Demon Hunters because I know, like, when we did our sort of like, segment on K-pop Demon Hunters, I thought it was a strong movie. It's not one of my favorite movies, but I do have to respect that it is a worldwide cultural phenomenon in a way that kind of honestly transcends my personal opinion of the movie. Like, whether I thought it was just fine or not, I don't think you can do a list of movies or TV shows of the year without mentioning K-pop Demon Hunters, to me personally. There is another one, but pin in that. Also, I just love saying pin in that recently. I don't know. Big fan of that saying. The other 2 honorable mentions, I actually wanted to give word to HBO series. One of them was the final season of The Righteous Gemstones. We don't really talk about North American TV a lot on the Mistake Zone, but Righteous Gemstones, something that I got to pretty late, but then I started watching it this year because the final season was this year, and I also just kind of wanted to give shout out to that final episode and like just that whole scene with Red Wine playing over it. Not going to say anything more. If you watched it, if you haven't watched it, watch the show. It's hilarious. Honestly, one of Walton Goggins' best performances. And yes, he was very strong in Fallout. I think he might be better in Righteous Gemstones. So shout out to that one as well. And the last series I did want to give a shout out to was Nathan Fielder's The Rehearsal. The second season of it was airing this year. And I got to tell you guys, it gave me a lot of anxiety watching that series. It was extremely just sort of like, I don't want to use the word cringe because nowadays I feel like the word cringe is cringe itself, but like my body was physically sort of contorting and cringing as I was watching this series because of like the things that he gets the people to do during it. And it's a weird one. It's crazy. It ends in a very wild place. If you don't know who Nathan Fielder is, check him out. Nathan For You is insane. Rehearsal is equally insane. This guy somehow got HBO to spend all this money on this series. I don't understand how, but I mean, shout out to him, man. I don't know how he did it. Jared, Matt, either of you watched this series?
Nope.
I think with Rehearsal, this was something that I was debating if I wanted to put on my personal end of the year list, but I know we haven't talked about The Rehearsal much. I think just maybe a few asides here and there, but while I loved the first episode of The Rehearsal from season 1, I feel like with the rest of the season, it wasn't necessarily for me. While I can still, acknowledge what the entire show is, what the messages that, or at least the subtle messages that, you could kind of infer from what is being presented. But with season 2 in particular, I do feel like it is a really more for okay, I'm trying to word this carefully, where it's a lot more cohesive compared to season one, but at the same time, it's everything that I adored from season one, really notched up. But to see it have this, overarching story, not necessarily story, but narrative, while still being able to weave in and out of something that can be really meaningful as opposed to something that is more, outrageous. It's that balancing act that I feel like he's able to really nail down for season two. And I do think by the time you get to the final episode, you're just questioning what exactly is real, what exactly he's trying to present, and walking away with something that I don't know. I was thinking about that final episode of the rehearsal season two for quite some time after I watched it. So it is definitely something that I do recommend, especially if you were a fan of the first episode, but maybe kind of fell off of the rest of the first season.
He's 101. Like, the way he just kind of approaches everything is crazy. It's just unheard of, and I don't think anybody else could pull off what he pulls off. But also, I don't think anybody else makes me go, this fucking idiot, like, as many times as Nathan Fielder does. Because there's some stuff that he does where I'm like, I can't believe he got away with that shit. And the last anecdote on this one, before we move on to the actual list, one of my coworkers, super into Nathan Fielder, was the one that I was talking to as the series was happening. And I remember, like, after the finale happened, walked up to the person's desk and I'm like, is he fucking crazy? And everybody without context was like, what's going on? And I was like, oh, no, Nathan Fielder. It's about a TV show. And yeah, Nathan Fielder, man, he's weird. But anyways, highly recommend that one. All right, guys, time to be dramatic for the first time today. We're going with number 23. And number 23 on my list is Mercy for None. It is a Netflix series, arguably one of my favorite things from 2025 because, Matt, Jared, this show, the plot is basically Korean John Wick minus the dead dog. It's actually a dead brother instead. So, Mercy and None, what's the story? Gonna do the thing I've always done, read the synopsis off of my drama list. Nam Gi-jeon was once a key member of the Bongsan gang led by Koo Bongsan. He fought through bloody turf wars, helping the gang rise to power, but everything changed when his younger brother, Nam Gi-sok, joined the rival gang under Lee Je-eun. To protect his brother, Nam Gi-jeon made a brutal choice. He left Bongsan for good, severing his left Achilles tendon as proof that he would never return. 11 years later, he lives a quiet life running a small drink supply business serving Bongsan-owned establishments. He has no intention of going back, but when Nam Gi-sok, now the second in command of Ju-won, that's his brother, by the way, is found dead under suspicious circumstances, Nam Gi-jeon knows he can't stay away. To find the truth and take revenge, he steps back into the underworld he swore to leave behind, where old grudges still burn, power has shifted, and nothing is as it seems. The show's fucking crazy, guys. The action is very much sort of like boiling point action. So like they spend a lot of the time in the episodes kind of getting to the point where shit hits the fan. And then shit hits the fan and you're just kind of going like, oh my God, like this is insane sort of thing. And it does the thing that to me makes action movies very successful. It keeps the main plot point focused on a very singular end goal. Yes, there's some complex character dynamics, but ultimately it's used to get the lead to the person he needs to kill next, basically. That's what an action movie needs to be, let's be honest. And it's also a very quick watch. There's no follow-ups that are going to be coming to it, which means you can also make this like a quick weekend watch and be done with it as well. And the protagonist, and the reason I compare it to John Wick, is the protagonist is played by Soji Sub. I honestly have never seen him in stuff before because I'm still fairly new to sort of like shows from this country. He was extremely menacing in a way that was sort of like, everybody who talks about his character is like, oh shit, it's this guy. Oh my god, we're in trouble, kind of thing. And the ones that don't, when they are encountered by him, very quickly get to the point where they are like, oh shit, it's this guy, right? Or oh shit, we made a mistake. And I think like I'm just a big sucker for stuff like this that is very simple to watch. There's really not much happening here except for just like, it's a revenge story. It is a guy that was out who's being pulled back in. It's all of these cliches that you'd find in these things, but it's just very well done. It's a very polished series. It's a very well shot series. The lighting is beautiful as well. The choreography is top notch. So even like just the action, it's not sort of like a boiling point to weak action. No, it's actually really good action as well. So overall, yeah, like highly entertaining series, which is why it's on my list as well. The only thing that I was curious about with Mercy for None was more about the length of it. It's 7 episodes that are like 30-40 minutes long, maybe. Some of them are even lesser than that. And so I was just kind of curious, like, why not go the route of releasing this as maybe like 2 movies instead of releasing this as a TV show? Now, I know like Matt, this came up. You mentioned Chainsaw Man Reze arc earlier, right? Like it's the same kind of conundrum here of like, would this play the same way if it were a movie versus a TV show? I actually don't know, to be honest with you guys. I think it's really strong as a TV series, but it's also one where I was just more curious about like, you know, considering the runtime overall, why did they not go with making it just like a movie or 2? Because I think they could have just as easily done that as well. But I'm not complaining. I got a good 6 episodes out of it. I got something to put as number 5 on my top movies, TV shows of the year for 2025. Mercy for None. It's going to be a little bit of a trend here as well, guys. A lot of my movies, TV show, very action focused. So just get ready for that because I've talked a lot about John Wick here.
You like what you like.
I like what I like. There you go. I talked a lot of John Wick. Let's move on to number 4, and that's actually the John Wick spin-off movie that came out this year, Ballerina. So, Ballerina, starring Ana de Armas, also starring Keanu Reeves. That's not a spoiler. He's very heavily promoted in the movie.
He's on the poster, so...
He's on the posters, yeah, basically. I don't think they trusted Ana de Armas to sell the movie by herself, but a little bit understandable. Ballerina was, I would say, a very flawed movie, and I think we talked about it a little bit earlier this year as well, but it's a flawed movie, but it's extremely imaginative, and its imaginative action, I think, carries it a very long way, and the signature fight choreography that the John Wick franchise is known for is very present in this movie as well. I've always described like the John Wick action editing as almost comedic timing, like almost like the punchline is being delivered with a literal punch. And I think like one of the reasons John Wick became so successful to me is because of that. And if you just kind of continue having and using that formula in these sort of like spin-offs, they can make as many of these movies as they want. And honestly, I'm going to enjoy every single one of these movies. Really enjoyed the backstory. Again, like mentioned this with Mercy for None as well. But if you have an action movie that is very singularly focused, in this case, it's also revenge. It works wonders. Just let the action do the talking. Let everything go the way it needs to go, and it'll be fine. And that's what Ballerina is. It's honestly fucking great. Again, very flawed. It's not. I wouldn't say the action is as sharp as the John Wick movies are. I think Ana de Armas does a phenomenal job with sort of like the things that she had to learn as far as like stunts are concerned. But it doesn't need to be anything more than it is. I think it knows exactly what it is, and I think that's great. Also, I think enough time has passed now that I can say this. It is a bit of a spoiler. Maybe skip the next 20 seconds, but guys, A Village Full of Assassins is absolutely fucking great. It was great in Hard Boiled. It's great here. You put that in any movie, and I'm gonna watch that movie 2 times over. It's fucking awesome. Guys? I wasn't dramatic enough with the first one. Let's do it again. Let's be dramatic again.
Okay.
We're going to go with number 28 this time. And Matt, you've actually heard me talk about this one, or you've actually been a part of me recommending this to you. It's Last Samurai Standing. It is a Netflix series. Just came out in, I want to say, November or early. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was November. And I've been recommending this series to anybody and everybody that will listen to me talk about it, because I think as far as action goes, live action wise, it's one of the best things of the year. Last Samurai Standing stars Okada Junichi. He has been in some of my favorite action movies out of Japan in the last few years, including the Fable movies. These are not tied to the comic books. These are actually about the assassin manga, where there's an assassin who goes by the name The Fable. Those two movies are also on Netflix. Very entertaining, very well edited. It has a little bit of what makes those Takashi Miike movies a little bit fun, which is sort of like that dark humor and the silent sort of like moments where, like, you know, it's just used for comedic purposes and stuff. Not directed by Takashi Miike, but still really well done here. Another movie that's reminiscent of that is like Baby Assassin. So like if you're familiar with that one, it's all kind of in that same genre. Now, Okada Junichi, again, phenomenal in those movies as well. He plays the lead character in Last Samurai Standing, and he's also responsible for a lot of parts of this series, including the choreography as well. And he is actually really good at doing his own stunts. So it's already a very promising start. And he plays the lead character, Saga Shujiro, in what is basically a battle royale type story. A lot of folks are calling it Squid Games-esque, but to me it's a little bit more battle royale because it's a little bit more open world than Squid Games is. I think that Squid Games comparison is happening because it's on Netflix, to be honest with you guys. And it's an Asian series. So as far as what the plot is, basically, let me just do that thing again with my drama list. The story begins in Kyoto, Japan in 1878. 10 years after the glory days of the samurai. Stripped of their identity and status, and no longer permitted even to carry swords, the samurai struggle to survive in this new era. As the wealth gap widens and a deadly cholera outbreak spreads, a chance at salvation arrives, an invitation to participate in a tournament for 100 billion yen. 292 warriors gather at Tenryuji Temple, each handed a wooden tag and thrust into a brutal contest. To survive, they must steal their rivals' tags and reach Tokyo to claim the massive cash prize, but the catch is that only one player will survive. As the game begins, warriors deploy every tactic imaginable. Some unleash arrows from afar, others dart through the chaos with daggers, some wield massive blades with overwhelming strength, while others rely on cunning strategy. With so many ways to fight, the battle for survival moves at breakneck speed. Who will endure the brutal journey? And who is the mastermind behind this mysterious and murderous game? So, yeah, Battle Royale-esque. Now, this is a 6-episode series. One thing I will mention is that it does end on a cliffhanger. And at the time that I initially watched this series, I was actually very concerned about, hey, this might not actually get a season 2, which would absolutely suck. But the good news is it seems like season 2 has been announced as of a few days ago. So it should be coming in the next year and a half, 2 years, maybe sooner than that. I'm not sure. But with that good news now existing, I can talk about what makes this series amazing. So, crazy action sequences, theme of this list, all choreographed by Okada Junichi, but beautifully shot. They clearly had a good vision in mind for all of the sort of like key fights that they wanted to spotlight in this first season, and they handle all of them really, really well. The stakes are very high as well. It does this thing with a lot of these Battle Royale series. Matt, you might be familiar with this a little bit as well, where like nobody's safe, at least for like the first like part of a series, right? Where like the characters are not established enough just yet. So like they might introduce these characters that you think are going to be around for a very long time, and they're gone in like half an episode. And so it's like, oh shit, like, you know, anything genuinely could happen. And that is a bit of a cliched execution, but honestly, I think it's done very well most of the times, because I think you have to set those stakes up a little bit, which is what they do here as well. you kind of got a little bit of this with the My Drama List summary as well, but the characters are all also extremely unique, and their their styles and everything make them stand out a lot as well. And what I mean by styles is the style of like their fight styles, how they approach a combat, or how they approach a fight, how they approach the combat with like multiple folks versus one person, like all of these things all actually are tied to sort of like what kind of character you actually are fighting against, and it's really cool. So a lot of thought and care that went into that is very visible with this series. Honestly, it kind of had a little bit of that Wrasslin feel to it, where like each character can be distinguished enough in their own style. It's great. The characters would fall flat if the cast wasn't good, and the cast is honestly genuinely insane. So I already mentioned Okada Junichi because yeah, he's done some phenomenal action movies over like the last decade. But then there's also a veteran actor, Abe Hiroshi. I don't know if you guys would know him by name, but he's been in a lot of things since basically the 1990s. And he plays Gento Sai. That is probably my favorite character in this entire series so far. Extremely menacing dude. Honestly, I think probably his most menacing role he's ever had, but he handles it really well. I want to see more of this character in season 2. There's also Takayuki Yamada in this. If you look him up, you'll know who I'm talking about. And he's in one of his most surprising appearances that I've personally ever seen. Again, won't spoil it. And those are just 3 of the cast members. Like, the entire cast is honestly genuinely phenomenal, even if you don't know what they're from. If you just see how they approach the roles in Last Samurai Standing, they're amazing in this stuff. So, yeah. Favorite TV show of the year, I would say, so far. I know there's a little bit of that recency to it as well, because it's from November, but like I already want to watch it a second time, because I feel like there's a few things that I want to sort of pick up again and like, you know, just memorize some of the fight scenes a little bit more as well, because yeah, there are some really well done fights in this entire series. I don't know if that's selling it to you guys or not. I don't know how you guys necessarily feel about sort of like action shows, but like, yeah, I think this is like a pretty good package so far of 6 episodes. Yeah, guys, I highly recommend it.
Okay. Rakush?
What up, Sharon?
That sounds like some good TV. Where, Rakush, have to ask,
Yes.
who's your best boy IRL, TV-wise, of 2025?
Gento Sai.
And best girl, if you have one.
Best girl, I don't have one. But Gento Sai is probably my favorite character from a TV series this year.
Okay.
Because, man, it's a menacing old dude. You know, it's like if you've watched any kung fu movie in the past, you know a menacing old dude is gonna absolutely fucking demolish things. And it's great. And, like, they handle it very well. Like, I just want to see so much more of him in, like, the second season. And I already know, because of how these series go, like, he has to be defeated. So when he is defeated, I am going to be very upset, because he is that cool of a character. But man,
yeah, menacing old man is it's always a good trope,
right? Yeah, like it's just like phenomenal stuff. Like I could honestly, like, you know, if we weren't just doing a podcast recording, I would honestly be kind of talking about this a little bit more glowingly without like considering how much of a ramble it sounds like. Although when I listen back to this episode, strong possibility that this already sounds like a ramble. But yeah, Last Samurai Standing, probably honestly one of my favorite TV shows in the last couple of years. Definitely my favorite TV show of this year. All right, guys. So number 2 on the list of movies, TV shows of 2025 for me it's actually Sinners. And we spoke a lot about this movie early in the year, and a lot of what we mentioned earlier this year still stands for me. I think as far as movies out of Hollywood are concerned, it's the best thing this year. I think it's, to me personally, one of the more entertaining things that I've watched in theaters in a long time. I absolutely loved on like multiple rewatches sort of how they handled sort of like that barn, like, basically like the music part of like, the movie itself. I love how they handled sort of the characters. To me, still, like, the epilogue is a super strong part of this movie and a super necessary part of this movie, because that epilogue really makes all of the rules that are set up prior to that matter. It's one that I'm gonna go back and watch a lot. It's a great experience, man. Sinners was phenomenal. Again, we've just talked about it so much that it's not one that I necessarily want to spend a lot of time on, but maybe what I will do is pose the question to you guys, as now there's a lot of time has passed since Sinners came out. Like, does it still sort of stand up to sort of like the hype that we kind of had after watching it the first time?
I think for me personally with Sinners, and I'm going to kind of just say my piece on it now and reference it next week as well, where I think two scenes in particular still, well, the whole movie to me still holds up. When I think back fondly of it, it is definitely my personal movie of the year. And the two scenes in particular that I honestly just think about every now and then since watching is that one scene in particular, the music transcends scenes or whatever scene whatever you want to call that scene, if it has an official name, but the music scene in the juke joint, just with all these different time periods coming together to, represent what music means to, these people, this community, and just how much it affects everyone involved. I think that scene in particular was so breathtaking. Production, choreography, the music, everything just comes together for such a spectacle. And as you mentioned, Rakush, the epilogue, where every now and then YouTube will feed me the epilogue in my algorithm, and I'll watch it every single time. I think it's just it's beautifully shot. It ties everything together. And as you said, just how it reinforces everything that this movie is kind of based on, and yet gives you such a satisfying piece of closure that's both, sentimental, bittersweet, nostalgic, even tragic when you think of it. I don't know. Sinners just has everything to me, where I still think highly of it, even after all these months, even after all the movies I've watched this year. There's just something about the performances, the spectacle, that I just have come to adore and still adore, and will probably think about for the years to come.
It's definitely got a certain timeless charm to it, and what I mean by the timeless charm is sort of like I can envision myself watching this, like, years from now, 5 years from now, 6 years from now, and still kind of enjoying it in a way that, these like older action movies kind of stand to the test of time. That's what Sinners to me feels like it's going to be. And yeah, man, just a lot of great things to say about that movie. And it might come as a surprise that it's second on the list. And I'm cheating a little bit with the top movie on this list here, but I kind of couldn't figure out if this should live in the top 5 anime or movies. And ultimately I decided that Chainsaw Man Reze arc to me is a movie. And so like I'm kind of treating it as sort of like if I went to go watch it in a theater, that to me is a movie experience. And yeah, like, I mean, we talked about this movie a lot, just, not even that long ago. Phenomenal experience, I think, for everything that to me it does to re-energize the franchise as far as like, what is going to be coming out after this. Recently they actually just sent out like they released a teaser for the Assassin's arc. I'm really excited for that. They haven't announced the format that it's going to be released in or anything either, but yeah, I think like it finally feels like the showrunners have a good understanding of what Chainsaw Man needs to be. tonally and like stylistically and everything. And I've watched it 3 times already for like, if that says anything. It's only been out for like 8 weeks in North America. But I think beyond just appreciating it as a movie, I think also like having this at the top of my list has a sort of like meta reason as well. And I'm going to kind of tie this into like what we chatted about with the Game Awards, where I was asking this question around what are the voters trying to tell you about the games that they vote for? I understand that initially that comes across as a little bit like sinister, if like, oh, it's rigged or something like that. But genuinely, what is it that like people are taking out of these experiences? And I think like if I look at the year 2025 as far as like going to theaters and watching movies, a big part of it was the normalization of anime movies being sort of like, these blockbuster hits for North American audiences specifically. And I know like Demon Slayer movie was a big thing. I haven't watched that one obviously because I haven't watched the series. But also just kind of going and watching re-releases. G Kids being the distributor for a lot of those has done a great job with that. One that I didn't add to this list here, but did also want to kind of quickly give a shout out to was 100 meters, which I know Jaron, you and Matt talked about one of the weeks that I wasn't here. And I think it was like, it's just this idea that like in any month, you could actually just go and watch an anime movie that's released around like the same time range as like, when it comes out in Japan as well. And as much as simulcasts have become a fairly common thing with TV shows, movies still take a very long time to get localized, or used to at least. I think the Slam Dunk movie is an example of that. The first Slam Dunk, I think, is what it was called. And I think like some of the Haikyuu movies are other examples of that, where it can take almost like 10 months for something to be released stateside. And a lot of that also has to do with the fact that the home video releases in Japan typically tend to take a little bit longer. However, with Chainsaw Man, like it's on streaming services now. It's basically like the trends are starting to shift towards seeing more and more anime movies getting released in theaters. And that's one of the reasons I kind of wanted to put this at the top of the list as well, is that normalization of like going and watching an Angel's Egg remaster in theaters, going and watching Chainsaw Man, going and watching 100 meters. Like, those are cool experiences at this point, and I don't take that for granted, and I think that's really cool. What do you like? Yeah, I guess Jaron, like again, as the sort of like the more frequent movie watcher or like cinema goer, I should say, like, is that something you noticed as well this year, or like is it just that? Do you think it's a coincidence, or like do you think there's an actual trend with that?
I think it's hard to say for me personally, just because I think for the past few years now, like those were specifically the movies that I've been trying to seek out to go for, my movie going experiences. Like when we were going through our lists of all the movies we watched this year, I was actually surprised at how many kind of anime movies, whether it be actual movies or those episode previews that we actually saw in theaters this year, re-releases, and even looking even the past few years, like all the Ghibli showings, or just the classic movies that are being replayed on a random Sunday afternoon, where I think it's kind of my bias speaking, but it's hard to say that if this is becoming more of a thing, just because it's something I've been accustomed to the past few years. But what I will say is this year in particular, in between both the Reze arc and even Infinity Castle, the Demon Slayer movie, I think this is definitely the year where, moving forward, I'm really curious to see how for lack of a better term, mainstream the anime movie experience will be received by a greater film community as a whole, just because the amount of times I've been fed on, my TikTok algo, people going through their movies of the year, movie content creators going through their movies of the year, and the amount of times I've seen the Reze arc, the amount of times I've seen the Demon Slayer movie. I think this could very well be a turning point. And I'm really curious to see from a production standpoint how many more franchises are not only adapted for the blockbuster format, but have the actual production behind it as well to kind of support what seems to be a growing want from international audiences.
Yeah.
I think that's where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting trend with just anything anime this year where it feels like, and let's ignore One Punch Man for this whole conversation I'm about to have, but it does feel like there is a larger push for quality over quantity with some of these things that are coming out that are globally successful. Even like One Piece going from a weekly series to now being a seasonal anime where they're only going to have 26 episodes a year. Like, that's also one where I think about just sort of like the demand is changing because of the global reach of these things, and also because of just sort of like the popularity of these things in a way that I find very interesting. And yeah, like outside of just the quality of Chainsaw Man, Reze, yeah, like there's just, it's been a fun year for movies, like anime movies specifically, but also I just think in general it's been a fun year for a lot of just watched media, personally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's honestly, guys, my way of wrapping up my list for the year. But of course, we got to do it. Don't Match Me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jaron, end of last episode, you asked the question, what was your favorite Don't Match Me of the year? And I stopped you guys from answering that one because my Don't Match Me is a Don't Match Me edition.
Hmm.
So, guys, I honestly didn't have a Don't Match Me when I started this recording with you guys, so I kind of had to think of something on the fly. Listen, it happens, all right? I was at the clubhouse, same thing happened. But I've proven time and again that I know how to make these on the fly. So this time around, what I'm doing is I'm going back to all the Don't Match Me's that I can remember, plus a few different new additions to make this week's Don't Match Me edition. Mm-hmm. Guys, I mentioned the clubhouse. I actually want to go back to the clubhouse and I want to ask a question with a different spin on it. I want you guys to name a monster from the Kamen Rider series.
Matt, Rakush, before you answer, I have to say, for those, for some reason, joining us for the first time, the Don't Match Me Challenge is a weekly segment that we do here every week on the Mistake Zone, where someone, in this case Rakush, will bring you 5 questions. And all you have to do is come up with an answer that doesn't match the question answer. Simple enough. If you want to play on easy mode, feel free just to not match Rakush. But if you're feeling a little spicy, try not to match Matt and I as well. And of course, since this is a audio journal, a podcast, if Rakush will say a question you might not have an answer for, feel free to pause it, look it up, and hopefully the answer you look up doesn't match Rakush's. Sorry about that, Rakush. Please take it away again.
Thank you, Jaron. I'm going to use the excuse that I've been talking a lot for the last 90 minutes, and I just need a break.
Fair.
Let's go with that. All right, if you guys are ready, a Kamen Rider monster in 3, 2, 1. I'm going to go with Beetletron.
What is that one from?
It's a 1995 Kamen Rider one, Escape from Adenoi. I started with the tough one, guys. Matt, what do you got?
I'm going with the cockroach Dopant from Kamen Rider Double.
There you go. Nice. Sharon, what you got?
Rakush, you gave us a list, and I randomly closed my eyes, scrolled up and down, and I went with Recyclotron. That's a funny name.
Yeah.
First appearance, something's trashy. That's a good first appearance. That's a good first appearance.
That tracks.
All right, guys. Moving on to the next question here. Earlier this year, I'd started making Don't Match Me's based on grocery shopping. So this next question I'm going to do as a grocery edition. I might have already asked this question before, but if I did, ignore it. I just need everybody to name a type of potato.
Okay.
I swear this is like the third time we've done this question.
Ignore it. It's the first time we've done this. We've never done this before. In 3, 2, 1. I'm actually going to go with the fingerling potatoes, which are those like longer potatoes, kind of shaped like a finger, but I feel like those are really good for like when you're trying to make homemade fries and stuff.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Matt, what you got?
I mean, I just went with a sweet potato.
Sweet potatoes, good.
Good answer. Good answer.
I still regret never buying one of those from that thing last in Japan.
Oh, yeah.
Don Quixote.
Don Quixote. Yes.
Actually,
I'm pretty sure an H Mart near me might be selling those if you're ever in the neighborhood.
Ooh. Maybe on my once a quarter work day.
Right, yeah. We'll see. Jared, what you got?
I just went with the tried and true Yukon Gold.
Ooh.
Yukon Gold's good.
The classic.
All right, guys. I spent a lot of this episode earlier talking about Wrasslin. I think we've done a Don't Match Me for Wrasslin before. I'd be shocked if we haven't done one before. But guys, there's quite a few AEW pay-per-views that happen on a yearly basis at this point. I just want you guys to name an AEW pay-per-view. In 3, 2, 1. I'm going to go with Full Gear. I just kind of like the play on words with like wrestling gear and then going full gear and everything. So, yeah. Matt, what you got?
I mean, I'm going to go with the one I think you talked about on the show, which was All Out.
Yeah. All Out is... it's typically happened in Chicago, but that's one that happened in Toronto this year. Sharon, what you got?
Of course, I'm going to go with I Love Me a Good crossover, so I have to go with Forbidden Door.
It's a really good name. I honestly think it's one of my favorite names of a pay-per-view if we're going that route.
Honestly, Forbidden Door is just a generally kind of like good name for a thing.
Yeah. All right, guys, 2 more questions left. Now, these 2 are actually just unique to more just things that I kind of experienced this year, but couldn't really talk about on these episodes. Question number 4 of the DMM Don't Match Me edition. It's the Newfoundland edition question. Guys, I just want you to name a town or city from Newfoundland, the province where friend of the show Julian currently resides. All right, guys, in 3, 2, 1. I'm actually going to go with Dildo. Because
classic.
It's not like I'm revealing anything here. Apparently Jimmy Kimmel's a big fan of the town as well. There's a brewery there. We ended up there on the last day we were there in Newfoundland. Phenomenal. They've also got a little Hollywood-esque sign that just reads Dildo. Had to go with that one. Matt, what you got?
I mean, Rakush, I only know two towns in Newfoundland. You said one, so I'm gonna say the other, which is just St. John.
All right. Okay.
I'm going with the easy pitches here.
Hey, everybody's got a fastball they need to go to, and that's fine. St. John's is all reliable. Jaren, what you got?
I want to shout out to the 6,540 people of Stephenville, Newfoundland.
Stephenville is good.
Damn, that is such a like SimCity ass name.
Good name. It's a good name.
Newfoundland's got some wild names as well, because like there's Dildo, there's Cuckold's Grove, I'm pretty sure. There's Conception Bay, of course, St. John's.
These are actually all very, very SimCity ass names. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Last question, guys. I didn't really talk a lot about music for this year. To be honest with you guys, I didn't really listen to a lot of new music this year. A lot of it was older stuff, including listening to a lot of stuff from the group Griselda, individual rap artists. They released a lot of stuff, to be honest, like a high volume from the last few years that's been really cool to go back to and listen to. So my last question for my last Don't Match Me of the year 2025, or the first one of 2026, I'm not sure. Name a member or a consistent collaborator with the group Griselda. In 3, 2, 1. I gotta go with one of my favorite rappers right now, and that's Stove God Cooks. Matt, what you got?
What I got here, Rakush, is my first match of 2026.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh man, damn. That's a really eye-catching name.
I'm gonna ask you a follow-up question after this, but Jared, what was your pick?
I just went with Benny the Butcher.
Because
I knew Rakushi would either pick Stove God Cooks or West Side Gun, so
you knew
I had to I had to do the safe bet for myself.
Jared knows Paul. All right, Matt. Yeah. I just want you to read off all the names that you see on that page.
Okay. On the current acts, we got Armani Caesar, we got Benny the Butcher, we got Boldy James, Brother Tom SOS, or maybe Brother Tom Sauce. I'm not sure how this is supposed to be read. We got Dissension. We got Estinac, Jay Worthy. The one that I was also going to alternatively pick, which is Rome Streets with a Z, of course.
That's a good one. That's actually a really good name.
Stove God Cooks, West Side Gun, also very good, and YN Billy, which I'm assuming does not mean Youth Novel Billy.
Nope.
No, I don't think we want to say out loud what that stands for.
Oh, okay. I just got. Okay. Go.
Jared, did you find that as fun as I found that?
Of what?
Matt reading rap names.
Reading rap names?
Yeah.
It was a good goof.
It's really great. That's this week's Don't Match Me, guys. Welcome to 2026. Thank you for listening to me as I rambled on about my favorite things of the year. I need a break.
Well, Rakush, I want to thank you for providing, taking us a trip down memory lane for your 2025. And, have to ask, Rakush, asked at the top of the hour, probably. Everything's a blur to me. But what are your final thoughts on 2025?
I don't know. Like, time doesn't really mean much the older I get, but that also allows me to just kind of appreciate the moment. So I would say if I remember 2025 for anything, it's the realization to always stay in the moment.
Wise words, Rakush. Wise words. As always, I want to thank my best friend in the whole wide world, Matt Alba, for joining us this week, editing this podcast, and Matt being a cool guy who reads hip-hop names. Thanks, Matt.
Yo, no problem, Jared. As always, I want to thank you for, I guess you didn't really do too much hosting this episode, but, I'd like to thank you for joining me on the couch here while Rakush talks about all his favorite things.
Hey, man. Good to be here in good company. And that was, I guess, 2/3 of our year-end celebration. Rakush currently on the board with the number one Don't Match Me of the year. So we'll see what the standings will be next week. But until then, Matt, please take it away.
This has been the Mosaic Zone, and for the most part, probably, we're all out of me reading rap names.
For now.
Oh, we're only getting started.